Hey guys, this is Jennifer from The Shooter's Mindset. We are live with episode 358. We've got our co-host here, Greg Cannon. How's it going?
Hey everyone.
And our guest of the hour tonight is going to be Paul Smith from Frontline Defense. He's also the PRS Atlantic Coast Regional Director. How's it going, Paul?
Great. How are you guys tonight?
Doing well. For anybody that's unfamiliar with you, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into precision rifle shooting.
Well, obviously, my name is Paul Smith. I live in Clayton, North Carolina. I own Frontline Defense Firearms Training Center and Range in Warrenton, North Carolina. After getting out of the military in 1994, going through corporate America, an endless amount of jobs, I figured, hey, I want to open up my own business, want to own a gun range, and I guess we'll talk more about that later. But getting involved in precision rifle shooting, I think it was about 2012. I stumbled across Sniper's Hide and started looking on there, and I saw the name K&M, precision rifle training down in Florida. And I called, was it Brian Morgan and Shannon Kay, and they invited me to come down and look at their facility. And I found out about the PRS per se. At the time, the only places I think in North Carolina the closest to us was Woody's down in New Hill. I don't think there's any PRS matches in Virginia, South Carolina. Not sure Jim Saunders was running Alabama Precision at that time, but it was very far and few between as far as matches. And that was introduced to the Guardian, and that's like I know it was on a PRS match per se, but that was my first precision long range match. Was at the Guardian at New Hill. I grabbed one of my staff guys, Dale Campo. I said, "Hey, let's go check this out. I'm an ex-sniper. It's going to be easy." Yeah. So yeah, ate some humble pie that day. Met some great people, learned a lot, and 8 years later, here we are.
That's awesome. I think everybody eats a little bit of humble pie their first match because people will be like, well, I'm really good. I had somebody at a local range tell me, I don't know, like a month and a half ago when I was there, they were like, yeah, I'm going to come try a match. I was like, yeah, you should. It's really fun. It's a good time. If you need any help, let me know. Oh, no. I mean, I'm a good shooter. I'm a good shooter. I can shoot, good groups. And I'm like, oh, okay. How are you, doing some positional shooting? Oh, I mean, I'm sure I'm good at that. I can do that. It's easy. And I was like, okay, let me know how that first match goes.
And it's funny you say that because even with the training classes, even just the concealed carry that I teach or some of the other basic intro, firearm classes, and there's always that one student who walks in like, I trained my whole neighborhood, or like the whole cul-de-sac is we're ready to ever invade our neighborhood. I trained everybody, and then they barely qualify in the course of fire for the simple, 3, 5, 7 yard handgun stuff. And yeah, I think it goes in all disciplines. So you're right about that.
It's funny. I mean, everybody thinks it's one thing, but it's just something different.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's funny.
Well, the one thing I liked about it, not just going there and eating humble pie, just because I had the expectation of, hey, I was a distinguished honor graduate of the Army Sniper School. I was a distinguished honor graduate of the FBI Sniper Academy. I got a gun range now. I know how to shoot. But, man, when you get into this style of shooting, it's a totally different world. And it was people like I think I met Scott Whitehead from Best Steel Targets, James Melissa Gillian, just not name drop some people off the top of my head, but a lot of those people, watching them and talking with them, and then obviously getting some training. So yeah, that was my first experience. So, and I like the Guardians concept of just very low key, low impact, more gear driven towards the new shooters. I always tell people to get their feet wet in something that, hey, if you come in last place, it's not all over practice score in the world to see. I always tell people your goal is not to disqualify. Don't DQ.
That's true.
Usually if someone is, and they'll finish behind you. So even if you bomb the whole match, at least you didn't DQ. So
That is very true. So you own Frontline Defense. Tell us a little bit about Frontline and where the idea for the facility came from.
So take you back to 1990, 91, where I was actually in the first Gulf War. I had the idea that I wanted to open up a gun range. I got out of the military, and sitting there in the Gulf War, I was drawing out the layout of the facility I wanted to have one day. But after I got out of the military with a newborn child and, obviously needed to make good income, and I was only, 23, 24 years old. I wasn't in that mindset yet of owning a business. So 2008, got my concealed carry license and started teaching the class myself. After it was strictly a monetary goal. I mean, I sat in a class with 35 people, and this guy was getting $90 a head, and I did the math, and the class was good, but I could tell that the guy was just doing it just to be making a side gig, basically what he told me after the class. And he only taught it for about a year. He got out of it. But I sat there, I said, man, I could do this on the side and make extra money. I enjoyed firearms. I was an instructor in the military, so it was a good fit. And it seemed like after about 2 years of doing it, all my students kept asking me, hey, can we come back over here and shoot? Can we practice on the weekends where we're doing the class at? And I was like, no, I'm renting this property. I want to use it, once every couple of months. It's not, the zoning issues, that could go on with gun ranges. Said, I go in there and shoot handguns. Sometimes the sheriff's department will come out there. Hey, we heard, we got a phone call, assault machine guns were out here. I'm like, I got 35 people shooting 9mm and 40 cals at one time. We don't have any full auto. And I part of me want to say, and if we did and we had the proper paperwork, what do you care? You know what I mean? But I, didn't get that attitude with the law enforcement guys. After a while, I started thinking, there's a need in this area. There wasn't any outdoor ranges. There was a couple of indoor ranges, and I always want to have an outdoor facility. And then about a year later, found a property, and it was May of 2012. And we broke ground, and oh gosh, Sandy Hook happened the week we started construction, and that was end of December 2012 going to 2013. And my grader showed up, and he said, hey, are you sure you still want to go forward with this school shooting that just happened? And I was like, yeah, I bought the property. The foot's been put forward. I'm committed. We already did a groundbreaking. I had like 50 people signed up, ready to go forward with the dream. And that was a scary time back in 2013, going forward with something like that with uncertainty. People talk about ammo shortage now. This is nothing. Back in that time frame, you couldn't buy a rifle case. You couldn't find hearing aids, hearing protection, cleaning products. In 2013, there was nothing. So this is bad now, but I've seen it worse. Then April 2013, we opened up. Yeah, we opened up, and here we are today.
That's awesome. It's a nice facility too. I've been up there. There was snow everywhere, but otherwise it was nice.
It's February.
I don't know. It was actually very pretty because I had never shot in the snow. Now I did out in Oklahoma last year too, but at the time I'd never shot in snow. So it was really cool to, see the snow on the ground, and
yeah,
it was beautiful.
I think the year, what was it, 2015, I was doing, we had our own club series going on. We weren't involved yet with the PRS, and we had a match in January. I think we had 88 shooters signed up, and only 12 showed up. All my local people were texting me at 4 a.m. Hey, there's snow on the ground. The roads are icy. We can't make it. And I was at the Lewisburg Sheets gas station at 6 o'clock, and Travis France was there pumping gas. And I was like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm here for the match. I was like, you just drove in from Tennessee? He goes, yeah, we left yesterday. So I got to the match, and I think I had one local shooter outside my ROs. Drew Walter was there. He drove in from Maryland. And Travis and a couple other guys from Tennessee and Virginia all came in and drove. Most of them left that night before, but none of my local shooters showed up. And it snowed the whole entire match, and it was heavy snow. And we kept going, and the last shooter shot the last stage, the last bullet they fired, literally the snow stopped after that. And they still talk about it. Every time Drew comes down, we still talk about that snow match. And I had a hard time finding plays. I guess being a new, running matches, didn't know that you could go down range and paint a red outline around the white targets to help find it. And we talked about doing that, but everybody's like, no, man, just keep it like this. How often do we get a chance to shoot in the snow, and actually in a snowstorm in North Carolina? But it was probably one of our best matches we ever had, just, making it and doing it. So.
Yeah, shooting in the snow is definitely something. It is one heck of an experience. If you've never done it before, go to Frontline.
I'll take it over the rain. I'll take it over rain any day.
Oh yeah.
Hey, it's a great wind indicator.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
really is.
I know you said before, Jennifer, we should call it the Frontline Flurry. But the Fury the year before, actually the 2 years in a row, I guess I blame Shannon Kay because every time he came, we had bad weather. But it rained for 2 weeks going into that match. And a lot of people ask me now, why do you have all these decks you built? I think they're 12 by 16 foot decks, 2 feet off the ground. Because I still have pictures of back those 2 years in a row where literally you were ankle deep in mud and water. And I didn't want to keep adding gravel. It just made it worse. So now we lifted all the stages off the ground. So I still got tires, barrels, your traditional props. I just use my Bobcat and forklifts and just move the props around on these platforms. At least keep the shooters off the ground now. So,
Hey, it makes it easier to find your brass.
at times, I still get people want to tear a prop apart to find that 1.6 GT brass.
And at least it's not like hidden in the grass or.
Oh yeah. It's not. You're right. I was cutting grass earlier this year, and I could see shiny stuff in the grass, and just been buried from the last couple years where just the mud and people stepping on it. So yeah, it does make it a little bit better for that, for brass recovery. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've shot matches before and literally came off of the gun and looked at where my brass was landing and being like, oh, no, there goes 10 pieces.
Yeah, there goes $20.
Mm-hmm. More than that now. So with all your experience with this real, being a real world sniper and stuff, how do you feel that competition helps out all of our friends that are, the real deal?
Yeah, it's funny because we have this conversation quite often where, people assume, oh, you did this, you did that in the military, and then you get to the matches and, it's a totally different world. And I know a lot in the military has come along as far as their training. Perfect example, Phil Vallejo, what he did in the Marine Corps, and some of their training programs. But a lot has changed over the years where, in the military, your objectives, as a sniper is not just shooting the bad guy, data gathering and just different reconnaissance stuff that we did. But, a hit's a hit. In our sport, you nick a shoulder, you get an impact. On the battlefield, a wound is a wound. But the target's much bigger. You're shooting at a 5'2", 6 foot, whatever individual, but you get in our style of shooting. Now you're shooting MOA at, 800 yards. And as we try to challenge our shooters, hell, we're putting MOA at 1,000 now, 10-inch plate. And when the match is over, I go down there and it looks like a plate is sitting at 500 yards. But the military didn't teach that type of consistency, at least back in the late 80s, early 90s. One, the gear, reloads. We all know all the things that attribute to that. But I think it makes them a much better shooter now because I know we have a lot of, active duty military that come up from Fort Bragg. A lot of other ranges around the country have military bases nearby. And, a lot of them been able to upgrade their equipment. I mean, it was 2 years ago, I had a SEAL team come down and I was showing them how to use a Kestrel. They just gotten them in. It was probably 4 years ago. I take that back. 4 years ago, these guys were deploying and I was just kind of mind blown at, they just now got these and, wasn't sure how to use them or what was even effective and trying to show them the old dope books I had back in the 90s. I said, would you rather use this or use this? But I think the shooting sport has definitely aided the military. It's made me a much better shooter. I mean, I could shoot in the military, but now in getting involved in this makes you a much better shooter, especially some of the equipment they can use now that's available.
Yeah. And, getting exposed to, if you go to a big match with 200, 300, 400 people that are all from different places, different walks of life, different ideas, and just seeing some of the different things that people use, people come up with, it's not like you're, okay, here's my team of guys, let's all learn from each other. Here's hundreds of people to see what they're doing. And you can walk by someone and be like, that's a good idea. Hey, where'd you get that?
Well, back in, early 90s when I was, down at Fort Benning, we didn't have bipods in our M24 Remington 700 sniper systems. We didn't have bipods on those guns. We're shooting off of sandbags or backpacks or Alice packs. We didn't have that kind of stuff. You're crawling around in a ghillie suit. You're not, vegetation grabs the bipod and hinders your movement. So, you can't shoot a PRS match without some type of stability like that, or at least get impacts. If you're just shooting 18 by 30-inch plates, yeah, you can wing it off a tree, stump or something. But obviously, we're not shooting those big of targets now. So, But yeah.
I think that people get into the whole like, is competition realistic? And I think there are some critics, even that are military and shoot a lot, that, it's not realistic, and especially PRS, you would never do that. I just saw a post where one of the AMU guys won a 3-gun match, and on there were comments, oh yeah, see if he could do it getting shot at and put on, whatever. People always criticize it for not being realistic, but to me, like, at what point is practice of any kind with your firearm bad? It's still working your fundamentals, and you have to have fundamentals to shoot PRS. You do. So
Right.
you can't convince me that competition shooting, whether it's pistol or long range or 3-gun, is not a good thing, because I think it instills the fundamentals in you so much that it's going to translate over,
Well, I used to have that attitude. I don't mind telling people that. I mean, I've changed a lot over the last 8 years, and I would say even the last 5 years. If you met me when I had opened up my range into when I started doing matches, like I had probably had the worst gear restrictions out there on the planet, where I didn't allow anything, you know what I mean? But I had that military mindset, ex-Army Ranger, the stuff I did with the FBI and the Army as a sniper, now going into this sport. And I'm thinking, well, no, this isn't real world applicable. You know what I mean? And so I get that attitude from that military side of it. But once I've sat down and talked with those individuals, or we're talking now, or people I'll talk to next week, is that we're no longer running around, Carlos Haycock, we're not running around in, ghillie suits crawling through the jungles of Vietnam. That just doesn't happen anymore. On the battlefield today is so much different than back, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. It's just so much a different game. So on that sense of it, I think the PRS style shooting, NRL, whatever you're doing, even with some of your buddies in the backyard shooting behind the barn at a plate 400 yards, having your own little competition, that is real world realistic now. And I think it's a hindrance from the military to think otherwise, because everything's more evolving to an urban environment. Because I mean, when we got the Desert Storm, nothing against 82nd Airborne, but they were, road marching for miles through the desert, and we're driving by in our Humvees, just waving at them, going, "Dude, we're 800 miles from the border. What are you doing?" And like they're just training, being hardcore, and at nighttime they're having to dig foxholes, and we're just laughing because I think you got about 6 inches in that desert floor, and that's as far as you were digging, So they weren't adapting to their environment and changing and transitioning over. And now I don't think, even the infantry units, unless you're in that urban environment now, with airplanes dropping, laser guided missiles. I mean, why are you going to put your infantrymen in that kind of threat and danger environment? So everything's got to adapt and change. So we've, I guess, done that with the matches. I've had to say, hey, this is a sport, this is a game, and if a person wants to bring 500 pillows and all that, and they have a good time, you know what, I'm taking your match fee, rock on. And, so I don't care anymore. The only thing I do as far as restricted on the gears is the tripods, and I just want them deployed on the clock. And I try to keep that real world, because nobody's running around in a sniper hive with a fully length extended tripod, all legs out, with their pack in the rifle. They got that thing collapsed. But, as I talk to other match directors, I just set up the stages where you don't need it. That's the biggest thing, because enough people are hauling around enough gear, their pack, their golf cart, or whatever, gun buggy, using 3-gun. The rifle, spotting scope, and all this. So I think, why just make the match setup simpler, where a shooter doesn't have to have all this kind of stuff. And if they do, they'll time out. There's no need to shoot a PRS skill stage barricade with a tripod, in my opinion. 10-inch plate at 400 yards, that's just doable. If not, God bless you. You got to use it, but get a good balanced weight kit on your rig, and you won't need that. So.
I think it's good to use different gear, but be able to use or not be dependent on it. You know what I mean? Like, I think some of the best shooters are the ones that can use a tripod very well, or they can shoot a stage without a tripod if it's limited. It doesn't bother them. They can do either. I mean, Brian
Lewis, VPRC, him and Andy Slade, our last match, I've got some stairs cut out, and there's the step portion that you would make for a deck, but it's just a frame. So it's like a triangle, and it's got the notches cut out. You go up and down. And Brian deployed it on the clock and cleaned that stage, but he knew how to use his equipment. And I watched him. I was like, moving. He was moving, and he got it underneath the 90-second power time. It was very impressive. And some other people try to duplicate it and never used one before. And now to me, it kind of comes a safety issue, trying to handle a firearm and a tripod like that with your hands. But, I always tell people, man, just practice with it. But I'm to the point now, I don't care. Use whatever makes you happy. If that makes you happy, then go for it. We all evolve.
You decided it wasn't a hill to die on, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, take the match fees or, make half the shooters not want to come shoot because I don't allow it. So, I run a business. I mean, I do this full time now. I didn't used to do it. And we're going on 5 years now. So, I need money to pay my bills. So have at it, man. Have fun. So on that point of it, if I want to do a hardcore match, something where I don't allow it, then it'd just be something that's a non-sanctioned event. It doesn't count for points for any series, and for all those 308 haters, I still love that round, but, I'll probably do some 308 stuff only and see how it goes from there. So, but at the end of the day, just want people to have fun, stay safe, and get involved, do something.
Greg, you got some lives?
Yeah, we'll hit some of the lives after. Let's talk about training for a minute. You guys offer like a ton of different training courses from your basic concealed carry that you're talking about to advanced level. So we're going to kind of give you a little quiz. Can you tell us all of the different trainings that you offer and kind of what they're targeted towards?
So I got the basic entry level handgun. Obviously, someone who's never fired a firearm before, or someone who's trained their whole neighborhood. Maybe one of those little extra training. But that's why we don't rent firearms at the range per se. A lot of people come up, I tell them go to indoor range. I feel like, giving somebody a 9mm or 22 pistol or whatever and try and show them in 5 minutes how to operate that firearm and turn them loose on the range. It's probably not a good, fit for everybody around them. That's why indoor ranges have ballistic shields between the bays. So try to offer that. I always tell people, hey, if you have a fire extinguisher at your house, you're going to show your family how to use it in case they ever have to use it. Want to have that same concept with a firearm. So precursor with the basic handgun kind of leads into concealed carry. I don't allow people to take the concealed carry unless they can, load and unload a firearm on their own and know the safety side of it. Because at that point in North Carolina, we're signing off that they've demonstrated they know how to safely operate a pistol. And if you can't load and unload on your own, you need to take my basic class. Then we got the obviously North Carolina concealed carry handgun course. We offer some different levels of advanced handgun courses. We used to have operator 1, operator 2, and all this drama, but I kind of phased it out just to advanced handgun. And I've kind of turned the reins over to Ben Briganimity and Major James Williamson, both former instructors for Travis Haley and some of my range guys, and I just kind of alleviate my schedule a little bit. But that's kind of the next steps after concealed carry. You got your concealed carry permit, but now what? We try to do those stressors, that real world environment training. I've been involved in some firearm instances where I work, narcotics at the federal level, and I'm still alive for a reason. But after all the training I had as an Army Ranger and spending a year in combat, having a drug deal go bad and staring down the barrel of a few pistols did not prepare me for that. I'm lucky to still be alive. I mean, again, all that training in real world environment in combat, but now I'm faced into a situation on the street, and I wasn't prepared for it. I was lucky, like I said, lucky I'm still alive by the grace of God that I am. But I will say, as far as that stressor, that timer that goes off, oh my gosh, and we all laugh about it. Jennifer, you're talking about the people say, oh, I got a great grouping at a 0. I get the same call, and I'm like, you ever shot after a timer goes off? And they're like, no. I just giggle because it's like everybody just freaks out on that timer. I've seen great shooters just do dumb things under the timer, especially in our pistol matches. Like, they get a jam. Like, if I did a class the week before, stovepipe, they're sweeping it, tap, rat, bang, ready to go. But do that in the match when that timer goes off, they're like, oh, what do I do? So that timer is a good real world stressor, in my opinion. Moving on from the advanced handgun, we got, the intro to long range rifle training. the intro to competitive rifle shooting, PRS style shooting. We are having a intro to competitive rimfire course coming up. I was actually working on the website on here, so we've talked about doing that, and I think we had a question on that coming up, so we'll dive into that later. Outside of that, I got a tactical shotgun course. A lot of the stuff's been on hold, waiting for ammo to come back into availability. I've got about 30 cases of shotgun ammo coming in now, all birdshot related stuff for our 5-stand shotgun area we're building. So I'll be rolling that stuff out. It gets a little bit warmer. Night courses we offer on the handgun side of it. We have an MP5 subgun class that we do, and some of the stuff's not listed on the website. I'm trying to think what else outside of that. Wingbird class. Dale Campo will be the instructor for that. We got our 5-stand clay throwers up. We'll be running that, and probably rolling out with our archery class also. So, and reloading. Yes, reloading class. I'm not looking at my website. I'm off of memory. We got a reloading class coming up in January. Yeah, it's great. A lot of people getting into, long range shooting. But every class we have in our long range school, I try to do things that, shooters have available. Is one, we use lab radar. We go down to all 12 students, showing them what their SDs and ES means. And then they see why the student next to them is, still at 800 yards shooting an MOA group. And I said, well, he's got an SD of 2, an extreme spread of 5. That's why he's getting those results. Your factory ammo's got, extreme spread of 90, and this is why your group's all over. So it's not you as a shooter. And once they see that, and then we'll put on one of our house guns, and myself or Dale Campo, we'll let them use one of our, personal competition rigs, and they see the difference with that. We did that at Guardian a few years ago. I pulled a switcheroo on the, day 1, everybody shoots. Day 2, the first place teams up with the last place shooter. Second place finishes, tags up with the second to last, on and on. And I remember we had the top 5 shooters. Bricks had won it. Kevin Shepard had come in second. I couldn't remember who was third. Chris Brown came in third. Just some top guys. So they had the bottom tier of the pool. They got the 1,000-yard deck. I had the top ranked shooters on their team lay their rifle down. I had their teammate lay their rifle down, made them step back. I told them switch. So now the person who came in last place shot Bricks's rifle. Bricks now shot the guy who came in last place. And I made it, 5 and 5, 5 shots, 5 shots. The first 5 top guys, I think Kevin Shepard might have got 1 impact. The rest of them went 0 for 5. Their teammates cleaned it, every single one of them. So the man who came in dead last, probably hit 10% of the targets, cleaned that stage with Bricks's rifle. And it was a great, great confidence builder for those shooters. Like, hey, you're not as bad as you think you are. You just need to upgrade your equipment a little bit, and that was, and I probably need to bring that back, obviously in a non-sanctioned point event, but it was a great teaching tool for everyone. And especially the people who didn't do well in day 1, now in day 2, they, now the guy shoots the guy who won the whole match and he cleaned the stage. Well, yeah, you just shot his rifle, so 1, to talk to the shooter, hey, I got the ability to do it. 2, I need to upgrade my equipment. So that was a good day. You do that again.
I'll say that sounds really entertaining to watch.
Yeah. Oh, it was. And, and they didn't want to tell anybody because I was waiting for someone to show up who might have tried to game it and swap their rifles with their buddies. So now he gets his rifle back, But I told him, anybody goes past the hill and talks about your DQ'd, unsportsmanlike conduct. And nobody did. They wanted to see, at that point, they're wanting to see their buddy not do as well. They had to go through the same thing, So, yeah, it was fun.
Hey, what's fair is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, and it's Guardians for the kids, so that's all that matters.
Yeah. So Stephen asked a question, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase this a little bit. He says that everyone says that 10,000 hours is a sweet spot for practice to become a master at any one skill. Do you think there's a level of mastery achieved by rounds down range? I guess quantifying, instead of saying 10,000 hours, can you think of a number of rounds down range that would kind of correlate to that for a beginner trying to get into it, trying to figure out how much to practice?
I would say rounds down range has anything to do with it. I think it's more dry fire practice than anything. I've been shot a match in a couple of years, and people are like, hey, I haven't seen you while in a match. And, my business platform and, just the training classes, and we'll talk about that later, my schedule alone. But dry firing, I mean, why burn out a 6 millimeter barrel, practicing, sending, 100 rounds a weekend down the range, where you still can't get positional shooting down. So that's one thing I try to install to people in training is dry fire exercises. I learned this with Gabby Franco years ago. You're not familiar with her. She was top 10 of Top Shot. She's been to my facility numerous times doing ladies clinics. And second year she came out, she had like 3 openings, and I was up there with myself, Dale, and Mark Burke, bored out of her mind just watching. She goes, hey, you guys jump in. And I was like, okay, I'm going to learn from her. Yeah, humble pie number 2. So learned a lot. But when Gabby was competing professionally, in the Olympics, overseas, her daily regimen of 20 to 30 minutes a day of dry firing, and even about our advanced classes, I tell people, hey, when you go home, obviously magazine out, don't have live ammo in the room with you, but getting from concealed carry, point on target, front sight, rear sight alignment, pull the trigger, boom is the last thing you need. But if you can't get from here to here under 2 seconds, then you need to work on that. So I think dry fire is more critical than anything, especially as you get older in life. I mean, now I'm 53 now. If I had to jump down and get on my knees and, go through a stage, that's one thing I learned watching Allison Zane the last 2 times she's been at my matches. I mean, the girl only dropped 9 out of 100, 180 targets, and she cleaned, she'll clean a stage in 70 seconds, but her fundamentals are so down, but age is on her side. I mean, she's not pulling up her pant leg and moving her belly over to get down, and her back's not creaking getting back up, but she's just fluid in her movement, and that comes from practice. So I always tell people, you don't have to spend, if I'm gonna spend 10,000 hours for something like that, 9,500 of it is going to be dry fire. When I get my load development done and I true it up at 800 yards on an 8-inch plate, I'll shoot the 10-inch plate at 1,000. Everything's calibrated in my Kestrel. I don't just shoot 200 more rounds of verified plate at 500 yards. Does that make sense? And so many people do that. They come up to my range or members, they get on a 1,000-yard deck, they'll blow through 120, 140 rounds. And I have an unknown 1,000 yard next door with a rooftop, a barricade, a barrel, and a rock. And they don't practice on it. They spend all the time on the range, on the laying prone, shooting out to 1,000. Now when they have that stage in a match, they clean it. They do very well, but they falter on the positional side of it. So
I'll say,
my opinion,
go ahead.
So just my opinion, I think more focus needs to be put on, outside of load development and verifying and getting zero, that dry fire positional shooting.
I think instead of necessarily looking at numbers of hours too, I think it's whether it's valuable practice or not. I see people that go to the range and spray and pray, and they might shoot 10,000 rounds a year, but they're not gaining anything from it. They're just instilling bad habits. So I think at the range, going with an intention, if you're going to shoot live ammo, going with an intention and a plan of what drills you're going to do, and really being intentional about it is more important than laying on your belly and throwing a bunch of rounds down range. Oh, woohoo, I hit a target. Really focusing on what you need to improve on. And all of us like to practice what we're good at, right? None of us want to go practice that one thing that we are terrible at, because then the dude at the other lane is looking over like, well, they can't shoot, when you're really doing a difficult thing. And then I think with dry fire too, the hours are important, but again, being intentional and being honest with yourself. I don't know about y'all, but I don't ever miss a target dry fire. But being honest with yourself and saying, when I broke that trigger press, it was not on target. I would have missed that. That would have been a miss. And being honest with yourself, because it's easy to, set up a camera and video yourself dry firing and looking good, and really you didn't gain a lot from it because you weren't steady, or you pulled the trigger with a bad trigger press. So I think being honest with yourself and being intentional is almost more important, or definitely more important, than the number of hours that you do. I've already
Well,
been
and
before and been like, dude, you just got the fastest zero I've ever seen in my entire life.
well, like you mentioned, finding something you're not good at and focusing on that. I used to hate the PRS barricade. I hated it because I didn't know how to properly shoot it. And again, military side of it, that type of shooting wasn't, something I learned. One of my range members was James Vick, top 10 overall 4 or 5 years ago, PRS. He had these moves, no longer remember, but his the range one day. I said, hey man, I hate this position. I don't do well at it. That was back before weighted kits on chassis. I had a 30-inch barrel on a 308 and top front heavy, and I just this back before I don't even think the game changer was out yet. No, it wasn't. Clifton Reeser had started that phenomenal piece of equipment. But and James spent like 10 minutes with me. It was my body position. And then when I started practicing, the first thing I do outside of checking zero before I laid on my belly and watch that 1,000-yard light up for the 15th millionth time, I went and shot the barricade. Then I got to the point where I actually cleaned it one time, and I was like, oh my gosh, now it's like when I see a PRS barricade, my mind is like, I love this position. I love shooting it. And if you drop one, you get mad because people have learned how to shoot it now. Where that barricade was first introduced, people didn't like it, but now everybody loves it. So, or likes it better. So, but yeah, that's a good point. Practice what you're not good at, and that goes with the attitude, mental preparedness. That's a whole nother topic in itself, but we all bomb stages don't do well. I tell shooters that round has been fired. It's done. This is a new stage. This is a new mission you've got in front of you. You can't take that bullet back. Learn from it. I guess you remember my match books are 2 pages. I got the after action review on the second page, the dope you dialed and what you actually used. And I've gone to, other places, and my course of fire booklet is, my dope book, and is data on previous engagements. And I try to teach people that's what those are for, and I don't see people writing notes down. If I cleaned it, good. If I dropped 3, which ones did I miss? And I go back to my place and, and I practice those same. I'll replicate that stage distance wise. I might not be able to do the prop, but I want to know why I missed those targets. Of course we know, hey, I blew it. I was leaning, or the rifle slid and I pulled the trigger too quick. But outside of that, I was steady, rock solid, had a great wind call. I don't know why I missed that target. And I'll try to go back and duplicate that to find out why I missed that target. Besides being a chucklehead shooting a 308,
right? It ran out of gas before it got there.
Yeah.
Whenever you, one of the questions we were going to ask in a minute, I'll go ahead and ask it. And so this will kind of go along with it. So I was going to ask, how do you keep your matches new and fun each time and a little different, and still challenge the shooters, the top shooters, but leave it to where the newer shooters still have attainable targets that, they can be successful and have some successes and have fun, because it's not fun. I mean, all of us know it's not fun to go and hit 3 targets all day. That just sucks. Yeah. So how do you do that piece of it? And then what kind of made me go ahead and jump into it is, do you think about the mindset of the shooter when you are planning stages? Do you think like, I want to push them to think this way, or do you include mindset in your stage planning?
I'll say stage planning and the environment we're in now. And I hate to say it, and other match traders might tell me it's not true. I just tell them, you haven't been doing this long enough. There's a few of us out who's been doing this more than 10 years, and it's a big revolving door business. We used to run our pistol matches, 2-gun, 3-gun, and one thing I learned from some very seasoned IDPA and all those other organizations is like, for every shooter you have, you need to find 2 more to replace them. And I go from end of year of all the shooters that we used to see, what I'm talking about. It's just a high turnover. People got life. It's not a cheap sport to get into. I love when somebody put up the other day, like, hey, what's a cheap optic I can buy? And people were like, you need to get that out of your vocabulary. What can I get for $400 is going to make me competitive? I'm like, you're not thinking right. But that's a whole other topic. But so to keep the new shooters involved, and I wish there was a way where, kind of the gap ground, you got the pro targets, then you got your amateur. Almost wish where because like last match, the end of season qualifier to get into the PRS finale. I mean, in my mind, I brought the pain. You know what I mean? And I mean, I had Jake Bibbert sent me a bunch of 1/2-inch steel, 4-inch plates, and I had some crazy props. And by the third stage, those targets were gray. Nobody could find them with the burnout car I had behind it. And I was like, dang, I didn't think that would happen. And I'm like, how am I going to make this harder for the shooters, for the pro shooters or people who've been doing it for a while? If everybody's running 308s or 6.5x47 is a different ball game. But the last few years, as those calibers were evolved, everybody jumped on the 6.5 Creedmoor and the 6mm, and now all the other variants. Like, shooters aren't missing. Your top tier shooters, and I'll say they're getting bored, but how do you go and make it harder for them? But then you got the new shooter just showing up, might have their first match under their belt or not, and they get out there to sub MOA target at 600 yards going, holy crap, I can't do this. And you never see them again. So I try to make new positions, or at least new props. I change them out every year. So I got a match coming up in 2 weekends. It might be some of the targets I had, or at least the positionals I had in September. But after we're going into February, the Frontline Fury is going to be a whole new set of things, just to challenge people to that point where it's a new position. But in the end of all be all, shoot off a PRS barricade to a ladder to something that you throw a game changer on and a mini amp plate, it's all positional. So that's why, a lot of people clean a lot of sages. So yeah, good question. How do you go in, design that, and make it challenging for your top shooters, but not burn out your younger shooters or your other class shooters? And I don't know if that would be something feasible. Hey, you're an amateur division, you're not shooting the pro targets, you shoot these. That probably would be something we could police, but in a non-sanctioned event, that might be something that I would roll out. Pro shooters shooting a 4-inch plate, amateur, you got a 10-inch plate, and just to build that confidence. I mean, they do it in golf.
I was about to say, in golf, they have the different tees. It's no different.
Yeah, but not my game to change the rules, but, some good ideas on that. And that's what I always tell new shooters. I was talking to a guy Saturday. Hey, I'm thinking about getting involved in, PRS style shooting. I said, great. I got an intro to competition course coming up in the spring when it warms up a little bit. No, I'm just going to sign up for your 2-day Frontline Fury. And I was like, I said, hey, I'm just letting you know, it's going to be a challenging event. I mean, when Allison cleaned it the first year, only dropped 9 targets. She came back last year, dropped 9 again. And my mind is like, I got to make it challenging for her, the top 5. As a master, you're going, dang, these guys are getting 95% hit ratio. That's too high.
You can just tie one of her arms behind her back. You don't have to make it harder.
Yeah, I just, change it up where, trying to find that magic. Because on the most part, in the regional, you're 80-85% hit ratio on your top tier shooters, but you don't like seeing the 10 to 15% where a shooter gives up. And unasked for advice is criticism. So after the match, people come on and go, hey, Paul, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, man, we'll start with your ammo. Are you reloading? No, I'm buying factory ammo. I said, okay, well, you might want to get into reloading because that's going to greatly tighten up your shot groups and get you more hits on targets. Just those little minor things. But if people don't ask, like you said, they get discouraged and quit, or they don't take training, I mean, I did. I mean, trust me, laying on a belly, I can shoot. But getting on positional, I couldn't. So what I do, I went and got some training. That's a simple thing.
I will say, I think you're 100% right on that our sport is a revolving door, and you really do have to cater to the new shooters. I mean, you want to keep it a solid, challenge for the top shooters. However, the top shooters, if you look at what percentage they are versus, the people getting into it, and that's what I try and tell people, about sponsorships and about, with companies. I'm like, you need to market to the new shooter because the top shooters already have their gear. I mean, they have what they like. They don't want to change. They've already bought, their tripod. They've already bought this. So you really, where you're going to get a return on investment is, having someone. I love the sponsored shooters that talk to new shooters and say, well, here, come shoot my rifle, or come try this. Here's this bag, try it, and most of the top ones are like that. Most of the top shooters that are sponsored, but I think you really do have to market to that. The bottom third is where you're going to get them to keep coming back and,
And it's funny you say that because, I see at times, and, you got a team shooters, sponsor shooters. There's 9 of them that show up at a match, and all 9 of them are in one squad. And I'm like, guys, I get you like to hang out, but that's what Friday nights, Saturday nights, and Sunday eating lunch together. But once you guys split up among the squads, a third of you go here, a third of you go there. One, you're marketing your company that's sponsoring you, and 2, you get more exposure to the new shooters. But having 9 of you guys in one squad doesn't do us any good, for the sport. And some of them are started doing that. They're like, I get it, but a couple like, yeah, it's kind of a distraction. I've got all these guys with me that I see all the time, and now we're just BSing. I'm not paying attention, and you know what I mean? Like, so when I go to shoot matches, I like getting in squads that honestly, they tell me, hey, I need to move you over here, help me glass RO. And I look at the squad, I go, I don't know anybody in there. I'll do it. You know what I mean? Just because I get caught up in that socialization. And next you know, hey, Paul, you're on deck. Oh, crap. I ain't got my dope dialed up. And I ain't, even loaded my mags up yet, because I'm trying to catch up with people that I know. But there's a times like I like shooting with people I don't know. You know what I mean? Because then you get that new shooter involvement. Does that make sense? I mean, I go, everybody wants to win and be competitive, but now for me, it's just fun. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to finish last. I don't want to DQ. But again, getting those new shooters into that sport is what's key. Especially, the younger kids. I mean, I know we're going to talk about the 22 league and how important that is.
All right, I'm trying to catch up on lives over here. We got a bunch of good ones coming in. I'm going to kind of roll 3 questions together real quick, so that we don't have to answer them individually. Andy was thinking during the story about swapping rifles. Do you have any ideas for kind of leveling the playing field gear-wise, like maybe a NASCAR type stock class events? A couple of people commented on the beginners targets or whatever, maybe doing that at a regional match where you're not shooting in the match per se, but it's just like a go out and shoot the match, learn stuff, but have easier targets. And then I think we also saw some people commenting on production class should kind of be accomplishing this. And
yeah, so again, my opinion, and don't make anybody mad or upset, but at the end of the day, I still have a business to run and I still pay my bills. But I thought about doing non-sanctioned events where, hey, if you're sponsored by, I don't want to say a company because they're like, why'd you say my company? Company XYZ sponsors these guys or whatever. It's probably not a match that you come shoot at. Obviously, with supplies and components, they want to shoot a match so they get points in the season. I get it. So on that side of it, yeah, we've talked about doing some, user-friendly first time, or, you shot for a year, again, no points, no prize table, no nothing, making the targets a little bit bigger, a little bit more user-friendly. Yeah, I'm all for that. I have no problem in doing that. I think it's a great idea. As far as production, what was the question on the production class? They're talking about, I guess the target should be smaller for that. That's a big no for me on that, because some of these production rifles are better than some of the custom guns I've seen come out of the shops over the years. The production division ever changed to factory ammo only, which I'm a big supporter of, then yeah, I would make those targets bigger. Because right now there's some of these production rifles rolling out. I just got a Ruger custom shop 6mm in that is qualifies for a production rifle, because retail on it's 2408, but it's got an APA little bastard brake on it, Trigger Tech trigger. It's got different barrel. It's got an arc rail built into the handguard. I'm like, damn, this is a production gun, but it's not. A Remington 700 SPS varmint, it costs $595. Shooting factory ammo, to me, that's a production gun. You know what I mean? But again, not my monkey, not my circus. I just play along. So, but I think it's a great idea. I'll definitely put that on the plate as far as a non-sanctioned points event for new shooters, and get them more comfortable. Then they feel they want to step up to the regional side of things and go from there. Then yeah, hats off to them. It'd be more enjoyable. You know what I mean? So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely got into the sport like just a couple years too early, because that's what I started out with. It was a 6.5 Remington 700. Like, action barrel bolt was bone stock going into my first match. I
Yeah.
did put it in a chassis to fit me. But like now there's, those two particular companies that build really great rifles, and two of them are production guns that, I mean, they're great guns. They're amazing guns. They are so much more than what I started with.
Yeah. So now I get mine. I'm like, wow, I should save money and bought these.
Exactly.
So talking about getting into the 22 a little bit, you run a lot of different matches at Frontline. So what all do you run? We did talk about Frontline Fury a little bit, but tell me about all the matches that you shoot there.
So we do the Frontline Fury in February. This year is a PRS 2-day qualifier. We got the Road to Redemption in September. So if you bombed it the whole year, you got one more chance to get into the finale, get your points. The Road to Redemption is a more friendly match because of the name Road to Redemption. So I have been known to have, bring the pain on day one, and day two, I've made the targets a little bit bigger. And, and people still bomb it. So, hey, you miss a 6-inch on day one, and then day two, you miss a 12-inch. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I bombed it twice. But we started out the Ambush Action Series years ago. I mean, I tried getting involved with USPSA and all these other places, and nobody would let me, breathe that next range to shoot at. So I started doing my own thing. That's when we came up with the Ambush Action pistol matches. And then we got involved with the 2-gun and then 3-gun. Kind of got out of that a little bit, honestly, when I started the Absolute Zero sniper matches. I couldn't get involved with the PRS at that point. It was under different ownership, and they're just kind of limited on their outreach. Then when Shannon took over, obviously brought more ranges, and now you don't have to drive 12 hours. I think if you can't find a match within 3 hours, you need to get one going yourself. There's no reason why you can't find a match somewhere. We're trying to wake up South Carolina and get some matches into there. I don't know, but anywho, that's another topic. So we got involved with that, and kind of laid back on the Ambush Action stuff just because it's monetary. I mean, I can't charge $90 for a pistol match. But do the math again. I'm a business, but I am bringing some of that back this year, just because our range is growing out over 1,500 members, and not everybody shoots long range stuff. And so I'm trying to, appease the masses per se. 22 League started that years ago. 22 PRL. Ruger actually contacted us, myself, Dale Campo, Pat Moore, and Rob Hardy, about helping design the new Ruger RPR 22. So we're involved with that. A lot of fun. We got to go to the Ruger facility and watch how they actually made firearms, making barrel blanks, and make it as amazing, the technology with that. So we started doing the 22 League. We go out to 400 yards with that. So that's a lot of fun with that. Got some new stuff coming up for this year. We got a 5-stand stuff we're building now for those who are getting those sporting clays. Got an archery league I'm starting up. Trying to work on something for January called the Hunter Games. It's going to be a 3-man, 3-gun competition. So you got somebody with a rifle, someone shoots shotguns, someone shoots archery. So you got a 3-man team. You got a 30-minute blind run, and so
that's cool.
Yeah, I want the cat out of the bag, but all 3 shooters will be shooting at the same time on some of the stages. So talking about a hot mess going on. So obviously the guy with the archery is going to be off the side of everybody else in the shooting. But we wanted to bring something where, because while the components issues going on, a lot of people are picking their matches where they're going to shoot. I get it. I got an 8-pound jug of Varget. I could probably pay my mortgage payment if I decide to put it up for sale.
Ray Blackadder is looking for Varget.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. So always try to think outside the box. We've done some nighttime stuff. We've done it with the Guardian, and just threw out some spotlights at nighttime. I can't remember how far we shot. I think we went to 800 yards. But I'm gonna bring a lot of that stuff back, because that's where I got started. I talked with Gary Larson last year about the Guardian, and we talked about getting back to the basics. You know what I mean? Trying to keep it simple, but getting back to the basics, and sometimes less is more. But for those out there watching, Ambush Action Series is coming back, and just hold on to that. So
sounds very cool.
Yes, it's entertainment. I mean, it's entertainment. So
I love different matches. You know, like I love shooting PRS. It's by far my favorite, you know, match format I've ever shot. But it's cool to kind of, you know, if I had a friend that was really good with a bow, I'd totally come and shoot that. And it's cool seeing
Yeah.
people come up with different things, not, oh, another, you know, 20 stages shooting off of props at targets from this distance with this set of rules. Like, you know, I love it. It's my favorite thing, but it's cool to have that one thrown in there to mix it up a little bit, have kind of a vacation from what I always do.
Oh,
match.
yeah. I've forgotten, you know, the Rambo run. I haven't done that in a couple of years, and every now I pull it up on YouTube, and I'm like, man, I've got to get back to doing those things that were a lot of fun. And it was a one-man, three-gun event, but you had a 30 to 30-minute window to shoot, and you ran my whole entire property. After you shot the shotgun stage, you ditched the shotgun in a barrel, and we pick you up on a side-by-side and drive you different parts of the property, and you just be running down trails, and boom, there's pistol targets, there's carbine, you'd hop back in, and you were just running gun. And I figured you shot more ammo in 30 minutes than you do all day at an 8 to 10 stage match. You know, you shoot your 30 rounds of pistol, and then you got 18 other people in your squad, and there's another hour before you get to shoot again. You know what I mean? Or I could do it in 30 minutes, and I've got 100 rounds of ammo. I got 8 mags strapped on my body. And you talking about people having fun, man. I'm getting excited talking about it because I just remember now there's just a lot of work in the background to get that stuff going. But I think that's some of the best times I ever had were those matches. And you only need like 2 ROs. You know what I mean? Like I'd follow the people, every shooter, and it was good exercise. But you know, it was, you know, hit, clicker, and, you know, and just done. And the next people are back there waiting. And, you know, it was just a lot of fun. And, yeah, I need to bring some of that stuff back. Absolutely.
That sounds awesome. Like a 30-minute jungle run.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Different stuff is fun. That's like, I'm doing Mammoth this year, and, you know, I've never had to range targets on the clock, and it's going to be different. And very interesting, you know, working as a team. It's just, I like the different stuff. So it's really cool that you're doing a lot of different, there's some variety there. So people that are local to you can go shoot your, at your range, but not get bored. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's why I'm kind of trying to make the Disneyland of gun ranges. So, you know, not the biggest out there, and, you know, don't care to be, but we have a lot to offer. So, and it's enough to maintain. I mean, I do this full time, not complaining, but whoo, you know, the tractors I got now and the equipment, and just keeping the grass cut is, and I don't mind it. It's great, but man, there's some days people are like, hey, when you thought about doing this? I'm like, nope, I can't do it so much.
Gotta sleep sometime.
Yep.
So your 22 league, did that start before the PRS 22?
Yes.
Okay, so I thought
some prior owners before the people have it now, we talked about, you know, merging them together, and I was like, nah, no interest in that. I just got it started. And some talks about a lot of places just weren't interested. And I think when the NRL started rolling with it, then it started picking up some popularity. But yeah, I mean, that's something I've been doing for a while, and it's good to see the PRS is doing it now. That way, you know, people can, you know, we got the finale coming up this coming weekend, I think, for it. And same thing, if you can't find a 22 match somewhere, then start your own. You don't need a lot of property to do it. Yeah, a lot of people ask me, hey, how far do you guys shoot? I was like, last match we put a target at 455 yards. I put 4 T, you know, the Magneto T1000s, whatever, 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 4 o'clock on an 18-inch plate at 455 yards. And I want to shoot it for the fun of it. Obviously, I didn't count my score. And I borrowed Dale Campo's rifle, the CZ 455, and 77 MOA. You know, we maxed out his Gen 2 PST, and we had to hold over some more. And that was fun watching that thing light up. And I think we had 48 shooters, and I went down there. It was like 32 impacts on it. So, yeah, so it got hit. So I think about 80% of the shooters at least got one hit on it. And you tell about, I mean, and that's fun. And I tell people when I started it, I was messing around with the Kestrel, and I saw my dope for my 308, you know, 12 mils, Black Hills 175 grain. I threw the 22 stuff in there, and for 300 yards, it was the same dope as 12 mils. I was like, okay. So when I set up the matches, if I got a target at 800 yards, I divide that by 3.33. That's going to be the same doe for 308 and a 22. So that 455 yard target is 1,515 yards for 308. So, and we use the exact same positional stuff. I tell people, man, it's to get down to absolute zero PRS regional match and you didn't do well or you're getting bored with it, get you a 22 and come shoot. You're going to shoot the exact same positional things. I don't change the props. I just bring the targets in closer. And now with, all the, Voodoos and the RimX and all the other great companies out there, or just your standard CZ now, man, we're putting small targets and people are just nailing them. And it's a lot of fun. And, attitude's a little different. You bomb the stage, you don't see somebody kicking a tripod or throwing a mag in the woods. They're just like, hey, bomb it. But to me, it's on a more level playing field because you're just grabbing a box of 100 rounds of 22 ammo and you might check your speed and pray to God you got a good zero at 50 yards and you just roll with it. And I guess it's less stress. It's just more fun environment. And you can see that conversion going over into the center fire back and forth. I'll say a lot of shooters we've lost to center fire just due to scheduling or financial. They're all in the 22 league now. And it's more economically feasible for them. I get it. I mean, I'm a granddad now. I got a daughter getting married. I can't buy another Gen 2 Razor. I would love to, but priorities, things change.
So are you guys, since you run both the 22 and the center fire and the center fire 2-day, do you get a lot of people that'll kind of start out at 22 and then advance their way up?
I say it's more the other way. A lot of people starting to center fire and realize I guess they bit off more than they could chew, or they didn't do as well as they thought they would do, and they hop over to 22 league. I'll see some in the 22 league hop into that, but once they spent the money on involved in the rimfire on their rig, I mean, you've seen the rigs out there. You can almost spend more on the 22 than center fire. But I see a lot of these guys take that Gen 2 Razor or their Night Force or their Bushnell or Leopold, and they're on their 22. I've done that. I took my Gen 2 Razor off my 308 and put it on my CZ. I wasn't shooting it. Why not? And the zero was pretty close. Windage was good. Elevation was only off by a mil. And put it back in the 308, a couple rounds. I was back on target. So, but I almost see it the other way around, at least now, because of availability of components, especially.
Yeah, and I have a lot of people, when I started running a 22 match, I was like, oh, this is going to get people, interested in it locally. And then everyone's going to go and buy center fires and, are going to come and travel to all these 2-day matches with us. And most people that are doing it, they just absolutely love it. And I do too, honestly. Like I've shot 1 2-day and then a handful of regionals this year. And it's just like the end of the year, I'm like, I don't feel like I haven't shot because I've been just doing so much rimfire stuff.
Yeah. And it's good practice. I mean, especially if you're able to do, if you have a facility that's able to do both style of matches and keep those same props there. I mean, I understand some places got to tear it down because they're renting property or they're using a range, just letting them use that portion of it. I've dedicated a whole side of my property now to nothing but competitions. For those who've been to my facility, we do the stages in the bottom. We would rotate to the top, but on the 1-day now, we have 8 stages in that bottom part of the property. There's no more walking to the top of the range to the other 1,000 yard and then back down to the bottom, except for a 2-day, unless I kept it at 8 stages. Obviously, nobody wants to shoot 8 stages a day in a 2-day. So we're shooting 10 stages, so I have to rotate on the property. But our 1-day regionals now and in the rimfire is all in one part of the property. So there's no more of that long trekking back and forth. And I'm able to keep, I'm fortunate enough, I'm able to keep the same positional props up. And and it's funny because, they'll come back and shoot the rimfire match and they're like, man, I couldn't get this steady with my whatever rifle, but I'm sitting here cleaning it with my 22. And actually, to me, the course of fire, I think is a little bit harder. Over the rimfire, I try to make it a little bit more difficult. And people are still, performing well with it.
That is awesome. It's so, I'm so jealous of just like how much room you have to be able to just lay out. So, like your property seems like you can use it like 9 million different ways.
If I had to do all over again, though, I definitely would have changed some things.
Hindsight is 2020.
Yeah, like if people all the time, I've helped consult some people, a good 10 hours away from me. I've had people a couple hours from me want me to help design their range. I'm like, dude, you're a competitor. What I mean? This is a business, you know. But someone's far, far away, I have no problem, helping them out. I mean, nobody helped me out. I had to figure it out on my own. But I mean, I'm not a jerk, but you know what I mean. It's if I got a car dealership on one side of town, you're trying to build one on the other side. I'm sure not going to tell you, where you get your mechanics from.
Yeah, they're going to try and get them from you.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were the Southeast Regional Director, but now you're the director of the newest region in the series, the Atlantic Coast region. How do you feel like this has kind of helped out our region and our series as a whole?
I think it's taken those less of some of the strain on the Southeast. I mean, it was made up of 10 states. You look at all the regions. I mean, the South has more shooters than anywhere else in the country, and a lot of it, equates to climate. And it's we're not sitting in knee deep of snow 3 months out of the year. Plus, we have a lot of hunters down here who hunt. I've had a guy from Illinois talking to me about trying to get a range going to Illinois, and I was like, well, you don't even have a rifle season for hunting. Like, it's archery only, a 3-day shotgun, a 3-day muzzle loader. Nobody owns a high power. I'm not saying anybody, but I'm sure there's not people running around Illinois with the rifles 30-06 270s because they can't hunt with them. So why would they have it? Down here in the South, your grandma's got a 243 or a 12 gauge. So the Southeast, I think, was getting to the point where it was just getting really, really big, and talking with Shannon that it needed to be split up some. So now we're Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. I think it's alleviated a lot of that strain on the other areas, and I think it's going to bring more shooters into the sport. I'd like to see some more states brought over to the Atlantic coast, maybe Georgia, but it's not my decision to make. But I think a couple more states to make it a little bit bigger. But I think it's helped alleviate a lot of the strain on the Southeast of what it was before.
Yeah, because that was a huge region with a whole lot of shooters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
and other states are close enough where they could go hop into Southeast and shoot a match. If you're anywhere in North Carolina, Virginia, you can hop into another region and get points there. So
I want to say, with where I'm at right now, I am 22 minutes from the other region.
Oh wow, nice.
Yep, I'm right on the line. Rudy asked the question, where do you hope to see PRS in 5 years from now?
I'd like to see it still striving and doing well, obviously. I always tell people, I put about 80 to 90% of match fees back into the facility just in that area. And I've built a lot of things down there. So obviously want the sport to grow, the manufacturers, the sponsors, very innovative products that have come out here as of late. And, somebody with a dream and an idea and putting it on, what's the word I'm looking for? To fruition, I guess. But I mean, it's a growing sport, and not just outside of that, it helps keep the Second Amendment strong. And the more people we bring to the shooting sports, and people realizing, hey, we're a bunch of gun crazy people. There's actually a sport like golf. Like to see it on more national level, for people to shoot at. Be cool to see that televised on a Saturday afternoon as a sport on ESPN. So
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
We got AG Cup on the Outdoor Channel and the Gap Grinder, but more so AG Cup.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it will be awesome, especially the way Tom's kind of building the AG Cup to be more televisable and getting the right cameras, the right people, and everything out there. That would be that'd be cool if that really took off and it got on more of a. I don't want to call the Outdoor Channel not mainstream, but the first time I wanted to watch something on Shooting USA, I had to put a post up on Facebook and ask somebody, like, hey, does anybody in Augusta have the Outdoor Channel? I could come over and bring beer if I could watch a show.
Wow.
But
we get it on Trump TV.
There we go. So in the comment section, everybody is asking, how did Carl taste?
It's very, very, very delicious.
Like
Those
sweet
don't know
victory.
don't know who Carl is. That's Carl.
Carl has got one heck of a rack.
Carl, I'm telling you, 4 years of, and I know my staff is watching, and they're so glad I harvested. Like, shut up talking about them. But going into the Road to Redemption September, it was, I had it 2 years ago in November, and when I got home Saturday night, I get cell camera sends me pictures, and at 6 o'clock he was in front of my stand making a scrape while I was at the PRS match, talking to Shannon in his camper about the next day, and I was like, and I moved to October last year, and same thing happened again. So I do it now in September, right there the second week of bow season. So leading up to getting ready for what Friday was registration, I was like running up to the range, trying to mow, set up targets, but I only worked till like noon every day. I was run back home an hour away and hop in the stand. And I was like, dereliction of duty, my adulting responsibilities. But man, when I popped him that Thursday, I came in Friday registration day. I didn't care if everybody hated my match, banned me from PRS ever holding another one. I really didn't care. I killed Carl, and that's all that mattered. So, but it was a good weekend because I didn't care if somebody complained about the course of fire. I really didn't care. You like your Chick-fil-A sandwich? I don't care. Bring it on next time.
John says Carl 4, Paul 1.
Yeah, who said that?
John Congleton.
Yeah, you're dead to me.
That's funny.
That is one of my staff guys. So
Jonathan said blah 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 blah. Carl blah blah blah. Carl blah. Everyone can take a 15-minute break now.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, what do you see coming up for the 2022 season for the Atlantic region? Got any big plans?
We got more ranges coming on board. North Carolina, possibly South Carolina, and Virginia. And I'll just leave it at that until everything is finalized and approved. But just some more venues for shooters to get into. We'll be hosting the finale this year for that in October, and more challenging events, I guess, for shooters. More challenging, like I said, go back to my drawing board about how we get more shooters involved in the sport. There's more, I guess, less hard matches, making something more user friendly for the new shooters. I think the best way to do that is do a non-sanctioned event, and I don't mind, still got to charge and make money, but I guess it'd almost be like a training class per se. Almost want to put it that way. It's not good for shooters to come out and just shoot and then walk away still not doing as well as they thought they would. What's the reason for that? I know my intro to competition class, we literally run through stages that we do in a match. I mean, I do some classroom, we check speeds, 0, we're straight on the range, and you're actually running a match. And I break it down to 2 6-man squads, then we'll come together. But you'll run that stage 2 or 3 times, and in each time, what did you do wrong? So I make the shooter give me their after action review, then I'm going to critique them on what they did wrong and what I suggest they should do better on the next time they run that. And it never fails. First run this way, second and third. Time to get to that third run if need be, their score improves. And I've also gone to smaller targets. So that first run, you might be shooting a 3 or 4 MOA target. The next run, you might be doing 1 or 2. So now it's kind of pushing them and then realizing, hey, I can do this. That's that confidence builder. So that's the kind of thing I want to do for that. Get back to the basics. So
I think that's good to be able to do. I took Sean Murphy's class, the team dynamics class, with my partner from Mammoth, and he did a lot of, teaching, like telling us a fundamental, and then we shot a stage of it. Working on a fundamental, shot a stage of it. Is there anything you want to repeat? And I think that doing that, you can teach positional, you can teach whatever, but putting people on the clock and letting them try it for real, because you can get all the fundamentals and then you can still completely fall apart and derail whenever the clock goes. So I think it's great to do that and letting them, fix what so many times we go to a match and we realize what we did wrong, but then you don't go back and fix it or get that redemption of, okay, I can do it.
Yeah. And that's one thing, plans for next year, getting more youth involved, getting more ladies shooting together. I mean, we have a lot of husband and wife teams that shoot together. Melissa Gillian has come out before and done a ladies clinic. She's going to come out this year. We're working on dates for her to do a women's intro to competition where she goes through there and the ladies can relate with her and whatever y'all talk about, So looking forward to that. So, and that's good because you get the family involved. That's fun. You get a husband and wife team shooting. There's some great dynamics there. Yeah, especially the wife, outshoots the husband on a stage. You never hear the end of it. So.
There was I rode Mammoth last year, and there was a husband and wife shooting, and there was, I was like, are they going to still be married at the end of this? It was interesting.
Oh yeah, we see. Yeah,
I think that's just how they are, though. I mean, I think they were fine, but they did not mince their words whenever the clock was going. They said whatever. It was like, wow, okay.
Yes.
Are there any more lives?
There are lots of them. We'll sum it up as everyone said, great job with Carl. That's exactly what they said over there.
I actually made Terry Goodwin. He's one of my. He made a shirt last year, the end of season. And it was the day I was at the range later than I needed to be. And of course, he came out right at dusk on my camera, and I was like 15 minutes away, and I couldn't get there before it got dark. And I posted a picture up next time, whatever. But they made a shirt, and Carl, World Peekaboo Champion. See you next year, Paul. So I had that shirt in my gear bag the day I shot him, and I put it on after I found him. I almost wore it that day, but I want to be cocky. But yeah.
Funny. That's like the first match I went to. I was so shocked that like the first day of the match, people were wearing the match T-shirt because I used to do half marathons, and like it was kind of like not cool to wear your shirt until you completed it. Like it was a thing, you finish it first and then you can wear the shirt. You don't wear it to run. I don't know. It might just be a superstition, but I always thought I got there and I was like, people are actually like wearing the shirt at the match. Now I do it too, but it was funny the first time. So it's kind of the same thing. You don't want to jinx it.
Yeah. Well, you say that this will be the first time I won't have match shirts. I still only have my normal range swag I ordered back in August because of supply chain. They're just not available. And, everybody waits to the last week to register for a match, order extra 2X, XL, large, but it's not happening. So sorry, shooters, but yeah. So I'm going to try and do something to give away, for the match, but shirts is out of the question.
Beer's always an acceptable alternative.
Yeah, there you go.
You do have so I didn't buy one of those hoodies when I was there.
I did.
I know. And every time you wear it, I'm like, I should have bought one of those. Those are like the coolest freaking hoodies ever.
Thank you. Still got some. Hey, if you got a mailing address, I could send you one.
I do have one of those.
Yep. I love my hoodie. I got it when I was there, and I wear it a good bit, actually. It's
I know.
lighter weight. It's not so heavy.
Well, one of my staff guys, Paulie, he's Paul, so we just call him Paulie. He got a zipper installed on his, so you don't have to pull it over. So a couple of us have done that now. Took to our local alteration place, and they put a zipper on it. So that's kind of nice at times. Yeah,
that is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Any more lives, Greg?
We are good on lives. We've had a bunch of lives. I haven't shouted everybody out. There was several people that commented when we were talking about training, just how great of a job you do and how you kind of take people in and, will truly train them well. Lots of comments on more training, more 22 matches. We want more regional matches. So everybody wants do more.
Well, here's the thing, and I hate to be selfish, but the last 4 years, when it got near this time of year, my focus was Carl. For those who don't know, it was a buck I've been pursuing for 4 years. I'm 53 years old. I bow hunt now, and that was my biggest passion was finding this animal and tagging him. Brandon Hambry, dang his butt, told me to go to Illinois. He used to be a guide up there. And I was in Illinois hunting some of the largest whitetails you find in this country. And I was worried about this stupid deer in North Carolina while I was in Illinois, knowing that he'd probably come out of my stand. You know what I mean? Like, I was in Illinois. But now he's done. I'm never going to pursue an animal like that again. It took too much of my time, just from the business, my family, my mental, stability per se. I mean, it was insane. The amount of time I put into one animal like that. So that was, you know what I mean? And finding something like that again is not going to happen in North Carolina. So, so a lot of things that we've kind of laid back on, they're coming back, everybody. I can promise you, and more. So we got that 5-stand stuff on the order. Everybody, familiar with 5-stand clay shooting. We're building a 5-stand, but it's tiered. So it's going to be at 5 different levels of elevation. And we're really excited about that. And there'll be some competitions incorporated with that also. So.
Y'all got a little
Things to
everything. You got a little of everything.
Got to.
One-stop shop.
Yes.
Well, it's kind of funny because some ranges are like a long range, and some ranges are like a shotgun range or a pistol. There's not very many that really do all 3 well.
Yeah.
There's some that like they're a shotgun range and they have a pistol bay, or it's a long range and they have, one little area of clays, but to do all of it is kind of neat. So.
Yeah. And the numbers show that. I mean, our growth has been phenomenal, even during all this time, even back when, certain presidents in office or economic times, where the range hasn't slowed down, because I have a variety of things for everybody. So when I see a group of 5 or 6 people roll into the property, and some of them go to the pistol bay, shoot steel, some want to shoot paper, some go to the rifle range, some will go to the 500-yard range. And the last 2 weekends, hey, when's your archery range going to open up? When's your clay sporting going to open up? Because when that opens up, it's going to be even, I think, more, fun for everybody. So, and we have a 22 rimfire range dedicated to 300 yards. I mean, so that's on a separate part of the property where I got these little kids over here or older. Their granddad brings his granddaughter up there, got a little 10-22, and that granddaughter's hitting a 12-inch plate at 300 yards. I'm like, that's going to be our next shooter down the road.
So do you have targets that stay set up for those?
Yes. Yeah. We got a spinner rack at 50 yards, and I got steel at 200, 250, 300. And the steel targets on those are more difficult than the center fire league. So I have a 3-inch plate at 200 yards, 4-inch plate at 250, and a 5-inch plate at 300. And I'm painting them 3 times a week. So what does that tell you? So when people come up and go, you can't shoot no 22 at 300 yards, we just giggle. Okay, man. Have fun on the 100-yard. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just okay.
You can't, but.
Yeah. But yeah. Don't tell me. Yeah. And I would like to get to 500 yards for our 22 league, but that's going to be pushing people's optics and, just their setup. And I don't want to do that. So we'll keep it at 455 for now. So we'll see.
All right, Greg, any more lives?
That is it for the lives.
All right. Well, I think we can wind it down to shout outs. Then we usually start with Greg.
All right. I have GSL suppressors keeping me nice and civilized. Shooters and sharpshooters of Augusta, our local indoor and outdoor ranges. PDC custom for pretty much the most beautiful rifle chassis known to man.
Yes. Craig, great guy.
He is. I literally just messaged him a picture on Facebook 2 seconds ago. But I got 3 of them now on the matching beautiful lime green. Shooters World powder. You can still buy the stuff. Shooters has an entire full case of it right now. Hunter's HD Gold, because I am blind as a bat, but I'm not when I wear that. And Fix It Sticks. If you're looking at getting some of those, hit me up. I got a dope discount code I can share with you for some cool Fix It Stick tools.
All right. Is that all?
That's all.
All right. Paul, you got any shout outs?
Oh, yes. The God of all people, man. I would not be here without him. And I didn't get in the story of the range, how it all came to be. But I'll say it for another time. My wife and kids for last 8 years putting up with those long days and weekends and missing parties and that to build the dream and get the business going. So thank them for that. My staff, Paulie, Terry, John, George, Dale, Sandy, Billy, Ben, and Kelly Miller, designer of our website in the very beginning with us, and all the help that her and her husband Jonathan did for me behind the scenes. All my ROs, I mean, I have great people. Of course, my members, I would not be here without them. We have no investors, and I didn't take out crazy loans, and just people believing in the dream and supporting it. Those who take our training classes, who contribute to the matches, we really do appreciate your business. And even those just come and shoot on the weekends and pay by the hour, you're just as important. And I just thank everybody for that opportunity. So very, very well appreciated.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to shout you out for coming on and spending 2 hours of your Tuesday night with us. We probably saved a deer tonight.
You did. Told my daughter we can't hunt tonight.
That's right. That's right. All the deer are like having a party because they're like, Paul's busy.
Yeah. No, thank you guys for having me out. I really, really do appreciate it. Enjoy watching the show.
So we appreciate you coming on tonight. We appreciate everything that you do for the shooting sports, hold matches. I know it's a ton of work. I know a lot of blood, sweat, and tears go into your range and your matches. So thank you for all of that and keeping it fun and lively and variety out there. So we appreciate you for that.
Thank you.
And with that, that's going to be a wrap for episode 358 of the Shooter's Mindset. See y'all next week.